Auckland house prices, growth, and net migration into Auckland. The relationship, that's what we're going to talk about. Kieran Trass has been kind enough to put together a beautiful graph, the writer of this book. Grow Richer with Property Cycle. Kieran, how are you?
I'm good, thank you so much.
Should we have a look at this graph?
Yep, sure.
What got you into this data?
It was in the 1990s when I was in banking and I started to observe, as a property investor, some trends in the property market that I'd kind of recognised from about 10 years earlier. So that kind of got me interested in looking at numbers and data. So that's how I started.
You've got you've got Auckland net migration here, which is the green line.
Yep.
And you seem to think that there's a bit of a interesting pattern here.
For sure, yeah. We typically reach a peak in the level of net migration, and as a result, property price growth seems to accelerate. So that relationship is fairly consistent, as you can see, and during periods of relatively low net migration, we don't tend to have much in the way of house price growth. So that seems to be the relationship that we can commonly see in net migration.
Apart from this, Kieran.
That was off a cliff. As we know, COVID, you shut the borders globally, then we're going to have that anomaly, which was actually an anomaly, of course. And now we're seeing a surge on the back of that anomaly.
Yeah, geez, that is a bit of a surge. That's true.
And that's going to transpire into one thing, and it's not going to be falling house prices.
Well, it does feel like there's a bit of optimism, right, in the market, but in previous trends, things have been a bit different. Interest rates. How are you feeling about interest rates?
Yeah, interest rates. I mean, it's fascinating to see they're still 3% higher than they were pre-COVID fixed rates. Mm-hmm. So we're actually in a bit of an anomaly with interest rates being so high. So of course that has crippled the ability of many people to borrow, and in respect of property affordability, it's, even though prices are down,
yep,
property is as unaffordable as it was back in 2008 when we hit the GFC, and that's primarily as a result of very high interest rates.
But some would say, Kieran, also with migration, can this continue?
I believe so. When you think about it, you know, a lot of people say, oh, there's a lot of Kiwis want to leave New Zealand, and so we have this outflow of people leaving. But the reality is, how many people can actually leave New Zealand, Hamish, before you have to turn the lights off?
Not more than 5 million.
Yeah, about that. That's it, right? But how many people would love to come and live in New Zealand from the rest of the world, do you think, out of 9 billion people?
Yeah.
Probably hundreds of millions, I would think. Or
that's at least in India, probably that many.
Probably, just in India, possibly. Tens of millions for sure.
Yeah.
So yes, I see this trend actually continuing. It's quite sticky, the net migration trend, as you can see from the graph. It doesn't tend to drop off a cliff unless you shut the borders. And so when it builds this head of steam, it tends to continue in that vein for some time. So I'm expecting that, perhaps not quite as much, but definitely a sound amount of net migration for a few years to come.
Interestingly, you know, as the population grows, you would have expected some of these numbers, the long term, for us to be able to handle progressively more people, right? But this, in some periods, this seems pretty flat relative to our Auckland population.
Yeah, I mean, in 10 or 20 years, you can expect the new low level to probably be a lot higher than it has been in the past, because we have a greater population.
Yeah, and I think somewhat what COVID has shown is that we kind of need the hands on deck just to even build the infrastructure, right? Which people complain that we don't have enough infrastructure. Well, we've just realised we actually need people for that as well.
Well, we've got a very high level of employment. We don't have enough people for the jobs, do we?
No, and so what got you into property investing, Kieran?
Property investing, I started in the late 80s. I bought my first property, added some value to it, and then my second property I bought with land. So, because the reason I got into it was, being in banking, I observed that the clients that I sort of aspired to be like typically were people in business, but they also had property investments. Mm-hmm. And I saw the value of their properties. They would come in every year, we would revalue their properties, and we would look at their statement of position. And I noticed, you know, because I was there for a decade, I noticed an interesting pattern, which was they just got wealthier and wealthier.
Yeah.
So that really got me inspired to, to start investing in property.
Yeah, and I think the good thing is with Auckland, it does feel like you always had high rent demand. I can't remember a time where we had an oversupply of rental property. So
it does. We do reach those points of oversupply. I mean, in the early 90s was a pretty tough time.
Yeah.
To get tenants, really tough. So we do have those periods, but it really depends on how many properties we're building as well, of course.
Right,
So
yeah.
there's a
and that has changed somewhat as well, right? With the unitary plan, that you can build
Absolutely.
a lot more.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of capacity for a lot more people now as a result of the unitary plan. The property before you could have 2 houses, and now you can have 6 or 8 or 10.
But look, thanks for that, Kieran. I think that's
Welcome.
a really interesting graph. It is good to, and I mean, I always say it's, obviously timing the property market can be a bit tricky, but obviously sometimes you can see the odd trend, which you've, going back to your book. Actually, again, I'm not getting any commission out of these sales, am I, Kieran?
No, not that I'm aware of.
But anyway, one thing I do like about this book is the trends that you try and spot, which is, the data is very current and very local.
Yeah, look, timing always beats timing, but if you can get a little glimpse of good timing, as I have many times in the past and helped many other people too, that actually gives you a significant advantage.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Kieran.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.